So I don't know, you've got 12 miles left. You can't move your legs anymore. What is going through your head?
It's kind of one of those things where, like, what's the worst thing that could happen? Well, death. Death would be the worst thing for me that I think could happen. And well, I'm not going to die. So let's get past this.
Welcome to the Fit and Healthy Denver podcast, where we discuss all things revolving around health, fitness, and wellness in the amazing state of Colorado, so you can get behind-the-scenes information from industry insiders, special events, and more. Coming up is our host, physical therapist and strength coach, Dr. Jamie Beauvais. And here we go.
Today we talk with Justin Hawley of E3 Fitness. I've known Justin for a while, and he's one of the most intense and focused people that I've ever met. In this interview, we talk about what goes through your head when you're in a 100-mile bike race that is so intense you think you might die. We talk about what clouds you from reaching your ultimate abilities. And we talk about what are chalk talks and why they're an integral part of E3's workouts. All right, I would like to welcome Justin Hawley with E3. Justin runs a HIIT gym on Mississippi and Broadway and has for several years, including a previous location, and is also an extreme athlete, mountain biker extraordinaire, and many other things as well. So, Justin, why don't you just get started with kind of telling us a little bit about you and how you got into fitness?
Yeah, that story may not be for the PG clientele. Okay. I got into fitness through like my own battle, a kind of dark story where I ran into some trouble, not necessarily knowing who I was, who I wanted to be, and those things. And without going too deep into that, fitness, the simple aspect of fitness, like being able to see tangible results through numbers, right? I can lift more, do more, move faster. Those super simple, basic ways to catalog growth and success became the foundation, the platform upon which I built who I was as an adult male, and with that, I realized it gave me the opportunity to do kind of whatever I wanted. And so I knew that I was going to do fitness. I was going to do it in some way. I didn't really know how. I started in the sales and marketing side of a fitness brand, like in a big gym, and it evolved into working with people. And so that was what kicked it off. And that's actually, honestly, that's the passion that still fuels me today. Not to make it sound like a resume, but it literally saved the life path that I was on, and put it on the right track.
Okay. And how about E3? How did E3, what's the genesis story there?
Yeah. Bamboo is the answer to that question. I was deciding on being a firefighter or on getting into fitness full time. And I've been dragging my feet on making the decision. And a friend of mine had introduced me virtually, well, back then it was just text message, to a guy in Denver who had about 20 clients, give or take, that he was training. And he was going to move to Texas, and he wanted to leave them with somebody that he trusted. And so he'd heard of me from a friend and wanted to link up with me and talk about potentially taking over his client book. And I didn't know if I wanted to do that or if I wanted to be a firefighter. And I had this little vase that I received as a gift with like one of those edible arrangements, like the fruit flower basket deals. Mm-hmm. And I had a day off from this big box gym I was working at and went to Whole Foods. This is up in Fort Collins. And I wanted to put a bamboo arrangement in there. I was a single dude living alone, had no plants. I thought it was a good idea. And so I learned about bamboo, and I learned about like what different like numbers of bamboo sticks and different heights and all that is. I learned about how to make an arrangement of bamboo. And I picked one that stood for like promotion in life and like wealth in life, and not just monetary wealth, but just wealth in life. And so that's what I put together is 5 pieces of bamboo of varying heights. This guy calls me again. He must have been calling me for like a week and a half. I finally answer, and we decided to link up. And that really is what kicked off me moving away from working in a structured fitness business to trying to develop my own thing. And so I picked up his book of clients and started to cluster people together. And the next thing you know, it created this small group formula that took many years to perfect, but was the beginning, the petri dish for E3.
Okay. And you guys started in a much smaller location than you are now. So, had some decent growth.
Yeah, sure. I started in a basement gym at a corporate like a corporate office park. So neon rubber weights, dingy carpet, like real creepy little environment if I really think about it. And then from there, I went to being to renting space from a gym downtown, like a hip Rhino district, cool garage gym. And then from there, that's when we really, I really saw a lot of growth and was able to leverage that and actually bought a gym from the owner of the space I was renting from. He had purchased multiple other gyms. He's still a gym owner in town, great guy. And I bought a gym from him. And when I say I bought it, I mean, we negotiated a monthly payment because I had no money. I was in my 20s,
Mm-hmm.
And so I negotiated a deal, and that became our first gym. That was 2011, July of 2011. And from there, we had a second location down south in the Tim Carroll area. And then we leveraged the success of both of those to build currently our flagship space on Broadway. And then the success of that has allowed us to now open this year a new location in Riverfront. So it's been kind of the stepping stone. And it wasn't until the Broadway spot that we actually had a gym that we built for our program instead of just kind of spitting square peg in a round hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're also going in Nurture, doing classes there now, right?
Yeah. So that was, what a wild path Nurture has been on. Unfortunately, such a great idea, 100% based on communities coming together to build a new, bigger community and co-mingling communities of other people, mingling with the communities of other people. Like the exact stuff you should not do COVID style
Right.
is what's necessary for Nurture to work. And fortunately, the leaders there have mitigated a lot of the concerns, and it's going to be awesome. We're super excited to get started in there, and I look forward to being part of that project.
Yeah, I think the whole Nurture thing is fascinating, and it's going to be interesting to see how all that plays out and how you guys are able to use that. So, tell us about the classes at E3, because you have kind of different styles of classes. Tell us a little bit about those and who they're for.
Yeah. That question was so much easier in the beginning when we didn't have as many members, because we could control everything, and our target market really fit a very specific subset of a person who wanted personal training, but they wanted it to be a bit more entertaining of an experience, I guess, is kind of a way to say it, than just sitting there one-on-one in the CAC or the something like that, working with one guy, him counting your reps, writing a little list of what to do on the other days. And so the small group program was built to service the personal training client, but to see them more frequently instead of once a week, going to see you 3-4 times a week. And that became something easy to manage. The success of that program, and that is still alive today, that's our small group program, which we call our focus program. And our focus program is just that. It's focused on specific visits, layering to create a goal track. So if you are wanting to lose weight, if like that's your number one focus is weight loss, you do a series of our focus classes each week, and that will get you to that goal. And that's very different than somebody who wants to do like muscle development. I want to build some muscle. You're going to do a different cluster of our focus classes, and it's kind of Venn diagram style. You'll have people on different goal tracks interacting within the same small group session, but their frequency and their session choices indicate kind of what path they're on. But as that got successful, we added in large group training for a conditioning element. And the large group training is really for that. It's for the person who wants to come in and just get conditioning work. We're going to definitely going to move stuff. We're going to use equipment. We're going to be challenging. They're hard workouts. I'm not saying that they're easy. They're just what we would call kind of more surface level fitness. A little bit of burn here, a little bit of activation there, a lot of bit of sweat there. But we're not going to get super deep. And with our focus training program or our small group program, we get real deep. We find ourselves really pushing the limit of what the body can do so that we can change the body.
Mm-hmm. And I've done both. And I think kind of my feedback would be that, the large group, and let's define large group because it's not large. There's
capped at 20 people, right? At the most is 20 people. Because we have it so frequently throughout the week and the day, you have anywhere between 6 and 16 on average in a class.
Yeah. I was going to say, I've done it a lot, and I don't think I've ever seen more than about 8 in there. And I go midday, but I would say, that style of class is a little bit more of a cardio hit, like a little bit more breath, and you're getting out of breath, you're sweating, and you're just like, oh my God, I can't catch my breath. Whereas the other one is more strenuous from a weight perspective. So you're working the muscles harder. you may get a little sore in a good way. And you could from the other one too, but I think cardio wise, the larger group training is a little bit more intense.
Yeah, agreed, 100%. I mean, that's the idea. Also, the interval timers help with that. In the small group training, it's typically going to be rep counts based on your ability. Those are going to change. You know what I mean? Whether you're on a development path or a real strength building path. So we adjust reps. With large group training, it's just all intervals.
Yeah. And you do have different focuses in each of those classes. You have cardio, which is core and cardio. You've got your battle ropes, which have a lot of rope work, which are exhausting, and others as well. So there's a good variety in there. So who do you think E3 attracts as a customer, as a client?
Okay, on the surface, people who are athletes outside of the gym. So if you played sports in school, if you hike, bike, run, ski, if your idea of fitness is simply going out and exploring life, like your hobbies are active, that's our key most member, because the level of training we do on the onset, when you first walk in, many people's experience is like, man, I better be in shape before I go to this place to get in shape. Like, it can be intimidating because we're going to push somebody almost to that edge and then just past it on every workout. That's the goal. And so they're high octane, and so people who are athletes outside of the gym are going to grab onto that right away. And so I'd say, first off, like, people who are athletic outside of the gym, that's our first target market. As we get below that and we get into the coaching program, I think we do a really good job working with people who don't see gyms as necessary in their fitness program. So people who say, I've never been part of a gym, I don't need to do gym work, I like to, run, or I do yoga, or I like to, maybe I don't do anything, right? I'm not a gym person. That would be the second group of people that I think we do a really good job of capturing, because we aren't a brand name. Like, we're not a CrossFit, right? For a CrossFit, and I think CrossFit's great workouts, but if you're not a CrossFitter, CrossFit's very hard to just kind of jump into.
Yeah.
And we're not an Orange Theory either, where, again, we're not falling into a chain. So our niche or our boutique element, I think, helps us capture that person that's not a typical gym rat.
And I was thinking about this because I was like, I think this would be a good question. I was trying to think of who I think it attracts. And I think it attracts kind of what you were saying, that person that wants to use the gym as training for life. Not as I want to go to the gym, but like, I want to get better as a mountain biker. I want to run and enjoy the mountains. I want to use this as training to get better at the other things I do. And then the other person that I think that it attracts, there's a lot of intense people there that are like seriously driven. And I don't mean that like in a competitive way, because I don't really get any aspect of like competitive as far as like negativity or anything. Everybody's supporting each other, but like, they are innerly competitive with themselves. They just want to push themselves to their top limits, just for themselves. And I think and you can see it. And I think that actually motivates other people to work out even harder. And I think is a testament to you and your coaches on how good of a good job you guys do with that. So let's switch gears here a little bit and talk about mountain biking, because I know that's your passion, and you have done some incredibly hard races that most people couldn't even fathom. So tell us about some of your harder races that you've done recently. And what I want to know is, well, go ahead and tell us that, and then I have a follow-up question.
Okay. It's funny because I reflect back. I try to write, one of my big passions is writing. And so I try to write these race reports that read more like stories, and try to practice becoming a better writer through them. So as I go back and I try to relive each of my race experiences and write a blog about it, it's funny, the feelings in the race where you're like, dude, this is the hardest thing I've ever freaking done. Like, I want to be anywhere else in the world right now, but right here. That feeling goes away so quickly after you cross the finish line, right? You cross the finish line, you're like, oh man, it wasn't that bad. This is great. And you get like the burger from the food truck and you're sitting down and just enjoying the moment. You're like, oh, it wasn't that bad. But without a doubt, the worst moment I've ever had was at the Tatanka 100 in 2018. And this race is in the Black Hills of South Dakota. It starts in Sturgis, and it's a 3-lap course that comes back to Sturgis at the end of each lap. And it ended up being 100 miles, ungodly amount of elevation gain, like 12,000 feet of elevation gain. But the day was just under 100 degrees temperature and at 90+% humidity. It was scorching. It was so hot. There was one part of the race where we were on blacktop, and you could just feel the blacktop melting your soul. The aid station, like it was dangerous. The aid stations ended up last minute. The race director is having, those giant white coolers. He's having giant white coolers full of ice taken to all the aid stations. And you get to an aid station, and they would just dump ice down your back. On lap 3, on my last lap, as I'm coming up into the woods, I had a hard out of saddle effort. So I get up out of the saddle and I go to crank up the hill, and both of my quads lock up and seize. And I look down and I see every fiber of each muscle fully flexed and locked, and they won't let go. And I just am trying to figure out what to do. And all the thing I can do is I fall sideways onto the ground, still clipped into my pedals, and can grab an ice cold bottle of water that I had just gotten at the aid station. And I'm spraying it on my quads, hoping that it'll let them just release so I can pedal to the finish line. I drank 20 plus bottles of fluids during that race, and I didn't pee at all. And I didn't pee for 5 hours. And when I did, citrus blast Gatorade, neon orange, it's the worst. It scared me. That's the worst I've ever felt in a race. I've done La Ruta in Costa Rica, which is dubbed as the hardest 3-day or hardest stage race in the world. I've done Lebanon 100 a few times. I've done some of these big iconic races, but it was that moment, like when my quads were seized up and I'm laying on the ground and stuck, like I can't move. I've pushed past the point that my body can even function. That's got to be the hardest moment I've ever had.
So I don't know, you've got 12 miles left. You can't move your legs anymore. What is going through your head?
Oh, dude, I was in a top 10 position. It didn't matter. I was go, go, go. Like the only thing in the head is just a green light, like figure out how to go. So I'm spraying this cold water on my quads. I'm like sitting there punching my quads. I'm drinking a pickle juice that I had anything I could do. And I knew it would let go eventually, right? It's kind of one of those things where what's the worst thing that could happen? Well, death. Death would be the worst thing for me that I think could happen. And well, I'm not going to die. So let's get past this. That's just like, don't lose your position. You're in the top 10.
Okay. And how do you use that intensity and that mindset in E3 with your workouts, with your clients? How do you incorporate that?
Yeah. We try very hard, myself and all my coaches, we try very hard to put something else like in the forefront of the mind when people go into a workout. So we do these little chalk talks before our small group sessions, and we tend to do them in our large group sessions as well. But we want to get people away from all of the different roles that they have outside of the vestibule, like our entryway when you walk in. You leave there and you're Jamie the husband, you're Jamie the podcast host, you're Jamie the PT, you're Jamie the friend, Jamie the son, like you're all these people, and we carry those roles into most of our activities, right? When we're making lunch, we're thinking about the other things that we need to do for these other roles, these other things we must serve others in doing. And it can really cloud our ultimate abilities, right? It can really cloud the depth of us that we can dig into, because frankly, at times that well's pretty dry. And so before we start a session, our whole idea is to like fill that well by simply saying like, what are you training for? Because if it's to do a deadlift perfectly, great. We're not the gym. Like we're not the community, because, and be honest, if our coaches get you to do the exercise 95% of perfect, like that's amazing, right? And we're going to point out that other 5%, especially if it's an injury causing 5%. But for the most part, like good form and perfect form aren't the difference between injury and not injury. It's the difference between like fully getting everything from the exercise. And there's more to be gained from challenging yourself to get that box jump, that height that you didn't think you could do. There's such a better thing to glean from you actually doing it. Even if you land a little off balanced and you're in your toes a little bit and it wasn't like a perfect box jump textbook style, you walking out of here feeling that victory is so much more important than us being like, dude, that was a perfect box jump land. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And when you have in the forefront of your mind, like why you're there, who you are when you're there, we can draw those moments. And so I try to take my experiences from racing because it's a really strong parallel. But hell, I'll read a book about Andrew Jackson in a battle in New Orleans and be able to pull some of those same sort of ideas, which is like, know what your greater good is and train that athlete. And so we try to incorporate that into the gym that way.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. And I think anytime you can connect life with the gym, right, you just have that much more motivation and understanding. And it's nice to know what you're working out for, right? Like you need to have a purpose. And I will say, you guys, so my wife went to you guys for several years before I ever jumped in. And I've got a strength and conditioning background. And I was always like, I'm just going to design my own workouts. I don't need to pay anybody for this. And there's another reason I didn't come either is because, I've been to a lot of gyms, and a lot of instructors, a lot of coaches. And sometimes, with my background, I have a hard time keeping my mouth shut, where I don't agree with form or the workout or something like that. And I think, finally I went in and tried you guys and I loved it. It was great. You did a great job with correcting form and I agreed with the programming and how everything was running. And, all of a sudden it was nice not to have to think of a workout, right? It was nice not to have to design it, that you guys did it and did it well. And so, and I've joined and I've been a member now for a couple of years and, I love the workouts. I think they're fantastic. And I don't have a hard time keeping my mouth shut, which is great.
Dude, I'm so glad you said that because every time I demonstrate like what we're going to do, or more importantly, if I see one of my staff members, cause I can't be in their head, right? Like,
right.
I think the hardest part about training your staff to execute a program that's kind of your brainchild is, the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th layer deep of why we're doing this. But you could spend all day training them on a move and never be able to get that deep into why we're doing it. And so if somebody were to question that, would they be able to defend it? And so even when I'm coaching you, I always look at you and you have the freaking no hair and this beard and you're like super stoic looking and not crazy emotive when we're doing the workouts. Cause you got your blinders on, you're just there for you. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, I wonder what and for a while I felt like I'm like, judging, you better be on it. Like, don't mess this up. Like, is that the way you should do it? Like, should we switch the leg? Like what, like, make sure you know what you're doing. And so you've actually been like you haven't commented a lot, and I hope it's because we're doing a good job. But
well, we won't tell the other coaches, and we'll keep them on their toes.
I will, because it's been somewhat intimidating, but in a good way. You know what I mean? You've had that effect. So
yeah. So I know I want to respect your time, but I know. Do you have anything else you want to talk about? I know you guys do some mountain biking training. You're coaching mountain biking. You're running races. You're setting up races. You're just so involved in that community. What else do you want mountain bikers out there to know? Whether that be training with you or just to know about your podcast.
Yeah. So I'll pull back one bit. When COVID hit and we had to shut down, there was a moment in there when I had to figure out if we wanted to find a way to fight through it, right? Like the easiest way to close up shop at any point in time for any business was in those 8 weeks, right? Like restaurants, the mom and pop shops, at hardware store in the corner. There's like a weird yarn store in our neighborhood, right? Like this was the moment to get out. And as an owner operator of a business, we don't all have succession plans, right? Like if you were to ask, like, what's the succession plan in E3? I don't know. I'm like super jacked up right now. I got tons of cold brew in the fridge. Like we keep driving this thing, And so when I looked at what the hardships were going to be with COVID, I thought that if there was a time I wanted to get out, that this would make sense, right? Like you could do it and move on to maybe another chapter in life. And our community of people that we have, I don't see our gym, and again, I bet everyone feels this way about their business, but I don't see our gym as a fitness resource. I genuinely see it as an integral part of most of our members' lives. That place where they're safe to be who they are, but also like challenge themselves. And I thought about not having that and not providing that role, and it literally just crumbled the person that I was. Like, got emotional about it. I'm like, dude, I couldn't let this go, right? We couldn't not be a part of this process of life for all of these people and the people we don't yet know. With COVID came a lot of challenges. And so when we could start back up, our point was, let's satisfy that role then. And mountain bike racing has been canceled nationwide for the most part, because it's hard to do group events, right? Like how do you get together 500 racers or 1,000 racers? And so we heard the call and we started our own race series. So we have, my podcast is called No Ride Around. It stands for just that. When you're on a mountain bike trail, if there's a really technical feature, be it like a log or a rock or a drop or something like that, there will oftentimes be a little path that goes around it, and that's called a ride around. And so the podcast No Ride Around means go send that thing, go straight at that big, scary, I don't know if I can do it obstacle and just go over it because that's the way we ride, go straight. And so we created a race series, and we'll be doing our 4th race here on July 4th. They're all rogue. They're not sanctioned, right? There's no crews out there telling you which way to go. They're all GPX courses that you have to download to your computer, and we all start together, distanced, but we got number plates on our front, and we're racing, and we're literally riding as hard. This the 3 hardest rides I've had all year have been races that I just made up. And so we started race series. It's at No Ride Around, so you can follow us on any of the socials there. With the gym, we let down our guards. I've never, since 2008, there's never been a discounted price. There's never been, for lack of a better word, like a cheap way to try our gym. We don't do a free session. We don't do a free week. But during COVID, we made it so that all of our sessions cover everything. And so we said, hey, if you got $10, come take a class. That's usually $35. And with that, we've seen so many new faces come into our doors, and we've been able to share like what we do. And from that, we've been able to pull new membership that we've never had before. So fulfilling our role, I think sometimes a lot of fitness brands, they created like an online program, which is great. Some were really successful at it. I knew we weren't going to be because it's visceral, our experience. We want to feel you, touch you, see you, yell at you, right? High five you. Mm-hmm. And when we could do that bond through fitness, through something as stupid as push-ups, that bond can become real because today you did more push-ups, or today you actually learned how to like actually do a push-up. And that's something that we can remember forever. So we want those visceral experiences.
Cool. Great. All right. Well, that's going to be it for today. All of you out there who are interested even remotely in mountain biking and want to see somebody who is truly intense at mountain biking and life, follow No Ride Around, look up Justin and E3. And that's going to be it for today. Justin, thank you for coming on and telling us about E3, mountain biking, you're setting up your races. You got a lot going on, man. So thank you very much. And that's it. All right. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Fit and Healthy Denver podcast, brought to you by Kinetic Chain Denver Physical Therapy. If you know anybody that you think would benefit from listening to this podcast, please share it with them. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you can enjoy all the great information we're bringing you in the next episode.